Good day, everybody. It's about 5 minutes after 2 on September 3rd, 2025. Today is a Wednesday. I wanted to kind of show you a sign, but these guys have been standing here for half an hour. But if you see what this says here, it says products from Volkovisk. And I was just talking about Volkovisk a couple days ago, and I've talked about it in a lot of videos. And that is a very, very nice town. Has a lot of history behind it as far as Belarus, Lithuania, and Russia even. That's where the general, oh gosh, I forgot his name even. But anyway, Stinker Car. That's where the general had his headquarters with that defeated Napoleon. When the Russians defeated Napoleon, that's where he lived. For that time. I guess he is normally from Georgia. I guess I forgot his name. From the Republic of Georgia, and he's actually Russian, but he was living in Belarus, so kind of significant. But anyway, I've been to Borisov too. That's where the right around Borisov is where the battle has taken place, where the Russians defeated Napoleon. But if you go to Borisov and you think, oh, I'll just take a little walk and go to the battlefield, you're not gonna make it. It's gonna be way too far away. So it's not that close. But I guess Borisov is one of the bigger towns that are right by there. By the way, you know, I'll tell you what, if any of you live in the tropics, some of you probably do, I had blue maho trees. And strangely enough, this looks like, well, the leaves are bigger, but it's very much like blue maho. I never saw something like this in Belarus. Look at the size of these leaves. Huh. Wow, interesting. Anyway, let's get into some news. Because a lot of interesting things. There's some things I forgot to mention on my video from yesterday. And of course, the biggest news of the past days is the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings. And the West, Donald Trump, he's kind of hit a mood of insanity. In truth, he's kind of went insane because of this. This is a real big death blow to the hegemony of the West. And Donald Trump, of course, he was so set on, you know, being the emperor of the world, and it shows this relationship between China and Russia, and now India, enter India. And this has been the talk of a lot of people people that are very savvy about politics, geopolitics, and economics and whatnot. I'm trying to find a place to sit down. I don't want to sit out here in the soap, but maybe I'll have to sit there. Let me show you around here. Look at this area here. Sportunivna, I guess, is the area. And as you see, Belarus, a lot of the former Soviet republics and things, they're famous for these big apartment buildings. And if you think, they're ugly, how terrible, and all that, you got to think of it in a different way. If you think of a lot of these people living in these areas where there's a lot of residencies and all, rather than building houses all over the place and spreading out all over the entire country, destroying all the nature for one thing. So that when these people here, they're concentrated in one area, and it actually preserves nature much better, I would say. I mean, that's one way to look at it. And you own apartments normally, 99.9% of the time. It's not like, I don't know, things are going to renting here as well, just like in the West, you know. And the World Economic Forum is saying that you will own nothing and be happy, and everything will be rented. Everything, absolutely everything. Your cell phone, your apartment, everything, maybe even your clothes. It's a very terrible world when you think about it, and opens up a lot of ways to rip you off big time, make your life completely miserable and enslave you. So, but anyway, it's not like that here. So you own your apartments, and a lot of time they're passed down to the children. And if you think you have 3 children, you only have 1 apartment, you know, that's where a dilemma starts up. And rents, a lot of time here in Minsk, maybe in a lot of the cities, they're not really that small. So that's a negative part of this, paying rent even in these places. So anyway, let's get on to the news again here. And I'm carrying a box, as you see, so I can't walk around so easily. Okay. What else did I forget to mention yesterday? So, let's see. There was a press conference. This was actually a big thing. It's a big thing to me because it tells you a lot. There was a press conference, and it was the foreign minister of Finland speaking to the press. And in that talk, she started mentioning, she was saying that Russia is a cancer and it has to be cut out. And it's very much similar to what a lot of these leaders are saying in the West. And that includes in the United States as well, like Besant. I told you all yesterday that Besant came out and said that, what did he say? That Putin is despicable. And have you ever heard Vladimir Putin say that any leader from anywhere, at any time, ever in his career, his whole life, he's never said that any leader is despicable. He's never even said that to Zelensky. He doesn't get along with Zelensky. To a large extent, it's because Zelensky does not get along with him. And Zelensky, just like as you see a lot of these other leaders in the West, they seem to have a genetic hatred of Russia. And I say genetic because if you study history, if you go back hundreds of years, it's kind of a strange thing. It's like a complete and total hatred of Russians. And it's much similar to maybe a lot of people in the United States, that were sort of brought up. Back in those days, we were brought up to hate the Russians, and we were, you brought up to I don't like talking when people are coming right by me, and even brought up to hate Muslims, and I don't know, and at one point to hate black people. And I mean, it's like, what the heck is going on? What did they ever do to you? But anyway, that's how it always is. Maybe because they're different. That's about how it is. That's strange things. Make a channel that is talking about how these psychological things destroy everybody's mind. And but I heard something also, not in the last days, and I can't even remember who was saying that, but I had mentioned to you guys in some other videos that after World War II, Bandera, he was in a prison for a lot of the time in Germany, and it's not that he had done much to Germany. They suspected Bandera had, for some odd reason, a powerful sway over people, as you all noticed, getting people to massacre Jews in the tens of thousands. They massacred Poles in the tens of thousands, massacred Belarusians in the millions, or the Russians in the millions. And a lot of people say, oh, it's communism, but it's not really that, as you see, because there is no communism anymore. And yet this Banderite ideology, it's even survived Bandera, Stefan Bandera, for all of these ages, and they have a hatred of Russians. And of course, a lot of this has spread. It's spread, I mean, it was actually even in existence back then in places like Finland and Lithuania, and even in Poland, yes, and other places as well. And this is just a lot of interesting little facts coming out. I guess in the last few days, they still had swastikas, the Nazi swastikas as emblems in the military of Finland up to just even a day or two ago. And they still have them, as a matter of fact, this very day, but they're getting rid of them anyway, because it's just a bad look. And as you know, they were trying to get rid of them. They still are, but they have some things that look like swastikas that the Ukrainians use. And, they delighted, a lot of those people, the Banderites, delighted in massacring people. Massacre, and and I'll tell you what, they were far more anti-Semitic than the German Nazis were. It's absolutely incredible. The Germans were appalled at the barbarism and the hatred that these Ukrainians would show to Jews and communists, Belarusians, Poles, whatever, and that they would, revel at massacring these people. And the Germans were just appalled. And that is also another reason why they locked up Bandera, because he could get these people to do these massacres that it's just unheard of in those days. And if you look at what's going on, as you all know very much, in Gaza right now, that they have revived an identical, and not as they just change a word or two, but it's the identical sentiments sentiments of wiping out another people, wiping out the Palestinians. They want to wipe out the Arabs. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of those people, and you guys would be, maybe you wouldn't be shocked, you know, and some of you take it a little bit too far. I don't know if any of you watching, but I'm talking about people in general, you know, and they think that all Jews are really evil and bad and all that, which is not the truth. But the only thing is, you look at what's going on in Israel, and then I guess some of these maybe you can call them sects. I guess there are different divisions of the Zionist Judaism over there, and a lot of them, they just want to kill. They want to kill. They'd like to kill a lot of people. They think everybody else are inferior.
Inferior, must terminate, must terminate.
Like some Star Trek episode or something like that. You know, and it's like, most of you that watch my videos, it's like, what the heck is this all about, you know? I don't know. It's like you make a friend. Say for example, you're a child. You make friends with a black person, an Oriental person, somebody that's Jewish or whatever like that. You know, and you look at them as your friends and all that. And then somehow, maybe a little bit later on in life, there are people, some sort of outside forces trying to say either that they're inferior or that they think you're inferior or that you should hate them. Absolutely astounding. And I guess the message would be is to learn to think for yourself, you know, and don't go along with what the media tells you or what some, you know, handsome or beautiful politicians are telling you and how you should think. Wow. But anyway, that's getting too far away from my subject. I was leaving off with this foreign minister of Finland, you know, and it very much echoes even what Kaja Kallas said, that they need to kill more Russian children. She said it right on video. And right along with that, you know, I keep wondering, well, why are less people looking at my videos and things as time goes by? And I'm not saying that those are my sentiments, that, you know, that I want any kind of hostility between any groups. But Google does, you know. Google also wants you, they have elements in there that wants you to hate certain peoples, and that you should, for example, love pedophiles, you know, which nobody really loves pedophiles. It doesn't mean that you want to go kill them, but you want to lock them up. You don't want them to circulate chasing your kids around and crap like that. It's absolutely disgusting. So maybe you can say, oh, Duke doesn't like pedophiles. I don't like the act of pedophilia and the people inside. I don't know what happened in their head and why they're screwed up, but they shouldn't be out there running around with your kids and crap like that. But and then there are hateful people, and you see a lot of them in government. You see, like what Kaja Kallas just said, and what Besant said. He called Putin despicable. I mean, this guy, what is he? The Treasury, the Secretary of the United States Treasury, and he's coming up with that kind of crap. And he likes Ukraine, even though he was snubbed by Zelensky. I think 3 times he kept trying to meet with Zelensky. He flew over to Kiev, and Zelensky didn't have anything to do, but he didn't see him. He probably said, "Oh, I had conflicts or whatever." Yeah, he had to be down in his weight room, you know, lifting weights or something part of the day, and you know, and use this white stuff or whatever that he does in the other parts of the day, and then running around and begging for money on the internet and things like that. Those are the important things. That's pretty much all the guy does anyway. But anyway, keep going here. This is just the hatred in these people, and they think that it's really cool to be hateful. That's the point I'm getting at. This is nasty stuff, like Israel and the Hate Russia Club people. Yeah, Russia is a cancer, has to be cut out. And I was also going to add something in that if you're remotely familiar at all with the history of Russia and Finland. Russia, well, let me put it a different way. Finland is beholden to Russia for giving them their independence. Finland was part of Russia. And, you know, Russia, they made war on Russia a few times, and Russia defeated them and said, well, okay, you can keep your sovereignty as long as you stay neutral. We won't have any problem with us. We won't have any problem with you. You can deal with whoever you want to, make your friends and all that. And of course, recently Finland decided they wanted to be enemies with Russia. So, And as part of that is, as I just told you, they have swastikas in their flags, even though they're getting rid of them. So it makes you really wonder, this ideology, this Stefan Bandera ideology, how powerful this is and where this stuff comes from. It's absolutely incredible. And I guess maybe it's weak people that are very weak. They have weak minds, and they're very insecure, and they want to be something great. So they want to be part of a band that goes around and kills other people and, uses their collective power to kill others, so that they can feel powerful. I guess that's probably what Nazis are all about, and Ukraine, unfortunately, that was actually the first capital of the Roman Empire. And like I told you guys before, the first time that anybody was called Russians were people that were governed by the government that sat in Kiev. So that was the beginning of Russian history. And then, of course, they had I think the capital moving to maybe Vladimirov and what's some of these other Novograd and whatever. It's just like the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire wasn't always governed from Rome. At one point, I think it was during Emperor Odovacar, he moved the Roman Empire to Ravenna, which is also a different part of Italy. And then Constantine, he moved the Roman Empire to Germany, to Trier, Germany. As a matter of fact, that's the town where Karl Marx is from. And Karl Marx, I think I've said in a recent video, if he looks out his window, his living room window, he sees the biggest Roman gate on planet Earth is the Porta Nigra. It's they call it the Black Gate, and it's the most best preserved Roman gate, in the former Roman Empire. And that's around the furthest that the Roman Empire stretched. They got to the Teutoburger Forest, to the what's the name of the city that's by there? Anyhow, give me my legions back. Whatever, Hermann the German. There's a big statue. It's like the Statue of Liberty of Germany, and there's something called the Echternstein, which is a little bit like a Stonehenge thing, but actually it's natural formations. You have to go there. It's very important. You go there. That's a very, it's a part of Germany that you've never heard of. There's a lot of things in Germany, like if you guys go touring to Germany, that a lot of times even the Germans don't know about, like Castle Hohenzollern. Or there's the Swan Castle, also belonged to the Hohenzollerns and Kiev, Kleve. And go to the Echternstein, and that's near Teutoburger Forest, where the Roman legions were defeated. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyhow, let's see. Cut the Russians out. Cut them out. Get rid of them. But anyway, Finland owes their independence to Russia, and then they stabbed them in the back, and now they join NATO and are talking about, cutting them out like a cancer. Really incredible. And a lot of their tourism was for Russia. They had a lot of people were friends. It's similar like to those in Lithuania and other places. And then you get they put these radical people, and who knows who's the one that does it. They put these radical people in charge of these countries. Just like Moldova. Moldova is the same thing. The majority of the people like the Russians, and yet they put a radical person in there that wants to kill Russians. I mean, and how in the heck do they find these people and then make sure that those are exactly the people? They're trying to do it in Serbia, to make sure that they put people in there that want to go and kill Russians, that want to be the biggest members, fighting for the top membership of the Hate Russia Club. We hate Russia more. No, we hate Russia more. Let's kill them. Let's kill them all. I mean, it's like, what the heck is going on here? I mean, this is just some weird crap, if you ask me. You got Soros involved in there. The CIA is probably, who are the band of people that put these leaders in power? Now you got Merz, a former Nazi. You got, his family. And you got Ursula von der Leyen, who comes from a Nazi family as well. I'm not saying that they are Nazis necessarily, but they seem to be pointing that direction now, don't they? Annalena Baerbock is another one. Her family's got a Nazi past. What about Kaya Kallas? She was a privileged child from the Soviets, living in, I think it was it what city was she in? I always get Latvia and Lithuania mixed up, but anyway. But there she is, smiling and saying how we should kill Russian children. It's really incredible. So it's like Zelensky. Zelensky, he won on saying, well, let's be friends with the Russians, let's get along, let's not ban the Russian language, and whoosh, some months after that, let's kill all the Russians. Wow. So Anyway, some kids coming here. Joining NATO. A lot of kind of interesting things to talk about today. Now, so also in the EU, France has called a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. You know, some of the top members of the Hate Russia Club for tomorrow, the 4th of September. I think there's a meeting going on right now because they're all in kind of a panic right now when they see Russia and China meeting, and now India's involved there, and all of these countries and some more countries they want to get involved. Indonesia, more than half of the people on planet Earth are represented in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and a big chunk of the world's GDP. And it's getting stronger. The multipolar world is getting stronger and stronger, and they are panicking. They're panicking very badly in the West. Very incredible, you know. They're meeting to try to think up ways for confrontation and hatred, and those people in the Shanghai Cooperation are trying to find out ways that everybody can bind together and solve the problems of the world with peace and prosperity. You know, and the other ones, they want war and hatred. Wow, on the other side with the West. Donald Trump put a tweet out, one of his most revealing tweets. I was going to write it down, but you know, this stuff takes too long, doing all these videos and writing the stuff down and researching all of these things. And Donald Trump's tweet was really long, and it was really terrible. I mean, it was terrible to see the state that Donald Trump is in. You have to find that tweet. It has about, he's talking basically, again, trying to say that it was the United States mostly that defeated the Japanese back then, and of course the Chinese lost. I guess it was over 35 million people, just like the Soviets, you know. And I'm not too sure what parts who played in what, you know. And of course, it was Truman that dropped the nuclear bombs, and Japan was trying to surrender anyway, and it wasn't because of only the United States. You know, the United States had a much bigger contribution, I believe, in the Pacific than the United States had in Europe. It was mostly, and if you even look at some of the things that Roosevelt said, President Roosevelt, he did come out and say that it was the Soviet Union that defeated the Nazis. And he also said great and tremendous praise for the Chinese, you know, having to do with the defeat of the Japanese. He might have even said that they're the ones that did it. I don't have any idea. So the United States helped a little bit here, and they helped a little bit over there. The United States, what did they lose? Less than 500,000 people. The Russians, some people say it's not the Russians, the Soviets, 27 million. The Chinese, 35 million. So the United States played very little, you know, and Donald Trump is saying, oh, how the blood of America. And they paid much less in blood than all the other countries that are involved in that. So they can't be, but the Donald Trump, unfortunately, his tweet is more like, it's kind of like a braggart and crybaby kind of stuff. Say hello to Kim Jong-un, say hello to Vladimir for me, and all that kind of, but it was very, very cheap. I don't know, maybe he would like to take that tweet back. So you'd have to find it, and you read between the lines, and it's actually kind of sad. You see the United States is in collapse. And I'm not saying fast collapse, it's just an inevitable collapse, and they continue to collapse. And even if Donald Trump did have the right recipe, it's not necessarily just Donald Trump. He is maybe a little bit of a contributor to it. It's all the policies from the past of the United States, and it's the system. The system of the United States dictates that they're going to collapse. And a lot of the mistakes that they make financially, and by using everything as a weapon, and everybody's running away as fast as they can from the United States, except for the West, the vassals, because maybe they'll be very severely punished if they don't hang on to the dollar and do what the United States tells them to do. Wow. But the other countries are finding that they can get away from that, and they're, for the most part, be honest, sucking up to China and Russia. And now it's going to be India. So the group is getting bigger and more powerful. India was already a part of this kind of group anyway. India had a kind of a foot in there and a foot in the West. They didn't want to be siding with any side. And now Donald Trump putting on the 50% tariffs on India. India has decided we are we're on that side. We're on the side of the multipolar world, and you're not going to take us away now. You're the ones that put us there. So I think that's a sign, and everybody's looking at like, oops, we made a big mistake now. And maybe they're going to find out they made a big mistake by starting a color revolution in Indonesia. Unless they're going to be successful, and I don't know if they are. It's going to be really something here. So let's keep going here. So France is calling a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing for tomorrow. And they're supposed to be talking about the security guarantees for Ukraine. And I was kind of wondering, well, what are they going to do? They were saying they're going to send troops, and then they decided they're not going to send troops. They can't send troops. And of course, I think a lot of this had to do that somebody from the United States has to be there. Otherwise, they would never have had this meeting. And they feel, and there is some indication that Donald Trump is really, really pissed off now, especially after this Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. And it's very strange that this is done immediately after the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where Donald Trump is in a big panic and all this. And I don't know, are they going to try to get Donald Trump to use military action against, in a sense, the multipolar world? And starting off with Russia, of course. And Russia's a big, I mean, in all enactments, when you have like computer analysis and things, and the generals and all, it's turned out that if the United States, even if they have all of Europe, NATO, if NATO goes against Russia in Europe, they will lose. So good luck on that one. And now you have this pledge, and you just heard it again today by Kim Jong-un when he met with Poland, or with Putin, excuse me. He said, whatever you want, you just ask. And Putin was saying how grateful he was for those people. And some people, I guess the North Koreans died. I didn't even know that they were there. I thought it was all fake. But it was just in one area, one in Kursk area. It's not as much as what is it, Zelensky you're saying? I don't have any idea. But anyway, there was I guess a group. Maybe there was a battalion, maybe, 1,000 North Koreans or something that participated. And some of them did die there. And I guess, Kim Jong-un said that they have a fraternal bond with Russia. So, and if they're in trouble, they will not hesitate, and they will jump in again. So, good luck on this one, the USA and NATO. And you're going to get some North Koreans there. You might get some Chinese there. And I can promise you another thing. There's going to be some Africans that will want to join in. If things start getting tough for Russia, you're going to have a lot of people that you're going to be fighting against. Sure, you're going to have some terrorists and some mercenaries and things from Colombia being promised lots of money from Ukraine or the United States with a collapsing dollar, and the Ukraine that doesn't even pay their own soldiers and has billions, hundreds of billions in debt for a little, for a much less smaller country than the United States. Anyway, you guys got the point. They can't even pay their own people. So are they going to pay I think as a matter of fact, the word is out that they're not even paying the mercenaries. Wow. So, anyway, Poland's not going to send troops. Germany said they're not going to send troops. Italy said they're not going to send troops. I don't know about France. You never know about France. I don't know if Macron is on his way out, he'll go ahead and send some troops probably as a farewell. You guys go die for me. I don't know. And my husband, my wife, whatever, the one that I'm married to, my teacher. Let's see. But I'm wondering if all these European leaders, the Coalition of the Willing anyway, I think they're just going to have a party. I think that's all it is. They want to meet to have a party, and and get the snowman a snowman will probably show up. He'll bring some things there too. You'll have snowman. You'll have at least the 7 dwarves there. I don't know. To sit there and stew. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about Russia? How are we going to defeat Russia and get their resources? And as a matter of fact, I think a lot of people now are talking about that too, that was the whole idea, steal the resources. Oh, it was Maria Zakharova. She said that is the whole thing. The UK they wanted. But it's Germany too. She just said today, Maria Zakharova, that it's the UK. They really want the Russians' resources. No, they wanted Ukraine. They wanted Ukraine to win. They wanted to help Ukraine, and then as a reward, they want a lot of the resources. But I think Donald Trump is already putting some dibs on that. Wow, this is a really strange stuff anyway. Donald Trump, and it looks like Vladimir Putin has even said that he is willing to cooperate with the United States with the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. So in other words, Germany, I don't know, maybe the United States is probably going to be the ones collecting the money at some point in time, maybe when that power, because Germany is shutting down all their nuclear power plants because they're a bunch of friggin' stupid idiots. I mean, I'm not talking about the German people, the politicians. And so they shut down their nuclear power plants, you know, all their cheap energy, cut that off, all the cheap gas from Russia and stuff, so that they can pay huge amounts of money and go broke faster and have a negative growth in their economy as they have been for many years. And anyway, so they're going to probably be buying that from the United States too, just like they're buying the LNG from the United States. So it looks like the entire economy of Germany, if that actually works out that way, and it probably will, they'll be beholden to the United States. So the United States can cut off, what, who knows, 70, 90% of all of their energy if they ever so do desire. Incredible. I don't know, the people need to throw those politicians out. Oh, somebody yelling up there. Okay. So, anyway, but they're hoping that, another thing is, part of this, maybe the security arrangement is going to be, as a lot of people are talking about this, you know, and Vladimir Putin said he doesn't have anything against Ukraine joining the EU, but he doesn't want them in NATO. He said that with Fico. Robert Fico from Slovakia went to China and was there at the Victory Day celebration, was I don't know, yesterday. And but a lot of people are saying that maybe that's going to be part of this security guarantee. They're going to, even though it isn't necessarily, not on the face of it, not a security guarantee, but trying to get Ukraine into the EU. And then, of course, remember they were talking about having an EU army. So you never know, they might just change the name, get rid of this name called NATO. They'll keep the Article 5 security agreements between the states there, and they'll just call it something different, and voila! And Ukraine is in NATO through the EU. Very incredible. It's very easy to be doing this, and I don't know, Putin should watch himself if he thinks that he's going to have nothing against Ukraine. But I think a lot of people are saying that there's no way that Ukraine is going to be allowed to join the EU because will be blocked, if not by Slovakia. And I don't know what Fico thinks. I think he said, I don't know if he's against them going into the EU. But a lot of these countries, Slovakia, Serbia's not in the EU. But anyway, a lot of them realize that if Ukraine goes into the EU, that they will go bankrupt. And that is the honest to God truth for many reasons. Ukraine is a very corrupt country. They'll be stealing the money out of there like you would never believe. And the cost of not only rebuilding Ukraine, but doing anything in Ukraine is going to cost far more than it costs to do anything anywhere else. And then, of course, you're going to get maybe some of this cheap agriculture stuff. It'll be much less quality, sprayed with lots of chemicals. It'll be rotting, and it's not in very good shape at all. And it'll be sold for far, far less than what all the other Eastern, or the Western, at least the Western European countries will sell their agriculture for. And it will be a rebellion. It'll be a rebellion in France. It'll be a rebellion in Netherlands. It will be a rebellion in Poland. And it will be a rebellion probably also in Germany. They will all not want that. Trust me. And you'll see exactly those countries. As a matter of fact, Brussels as well. They're going to all be in rebellion if that sort of thing happens. So you probably never see it happen. Okay. The farmers is what I'm getting at. They'll be in rebellion. And many, many more people. So, there was another important piece of news that was reported yesterday. It seems, this is really incredible. It seems that 4 Alternative for Deutschland party members suddenly died. I think one of them said one was supposedly suicide, one was heart attack, 2 were something related with liver and kidney, as a matter of fact, or 4. And then I guess the next day 2 more died that were going to stand in elections in the middle of September. So guess what? They're not going to be standing in the elections because for some strange reason, just a coincidence by the way, they all died. 6 of them died for the AfD. And if you guys maybe have forgotten, Friedrich Merz from the CSU, I guess, the CSU, the Bavarian branch of the CDU-CSU. He won the election, and he was the chancellor. And just a week or two after that, it was put out that the most popular politician in Germany is Alice Weidel of the AfD. And she had more favorability than Merz or any of these other ones. And so makes you, well, how did she not become the chancellor? So anyway, it was a finagled election. There's no doubt about that. And in any case, the more popular party, and it's just a coincidence that just 4 of them died within a 2-week period, and then 2 died in one night. It's just a coincidence. It just happened. They're all going to be standing in the elections, and it's strange. What do you have? You have the CDU, CSU, you have the SPD, you have the FDP, you have the Greens, and none of them died. They're going to be standing in the elections too. None of them from any of those parties died in the past month, but yet all of these AfD people die in 2 weeks. Just a coincidence, just a coincidence. There's nothing. And the police are saying, oh, there's nothing fishy going on here. Probably like the Nord Stream pipelines getting blown up and whatever other crap stuff happens, or Epstein. Oh, no, Epstein did it to himself. And, I can add something about that too. I think I wrote it down. I worked in a prison for like 3 years, and I was on suicide watch a few times, and I didn't know it, but I guess Epstein was on suicide watch, supposedly. And how the suicide watch is normally done is, there's like 2 guards, and somebody is, for certain reasons you have to observe these, and they have to pretty much be in sight of you most all of the time, these inmates, in case of something happening. And I don't know if he was even considered suicidal, but we have something, and we call it poo-poo watch. So if they meet with some, like their wife or something, some inmates, and people suspect them maybe of getting drugs, a lot of times what they do is, they can get popcorn. There's a popcorn thing there and something. You can get popcorn when you have a visitor visiting you, at least the prisoners. And one famous thing to do is the women, they might, they take a white balloon, and you just cut the end of it off, and you put some drugs, even if it's just marijuana or whatever, and you put it inside this balloon, and you tie it shut, and you stick it in a bag of popcorn, and voila, it looks like a piece of popcorn. But anyway, there's different ways of stuff doing that, even on kissing, and they stuff, and of course the inmates' wives or whatever, when they come in, they have to actually be searched too, to a certain extent. I don't know if they look in body cavities. I sort of think they do. I've never been a guard in charge of the visiting room, so but anyhow, if there's any suspicion of drugs being passed, then these people go on poo-poo watch, the inmates. And unfortunately, when they do their doo-doo, the correctional officer, and they have a name they call it stir. I don't like the word stir, but you have to take their feces, and I don't know if I should say this on YouTube, but you have to look at it. And I was there when one guy was doing it, and I didn't do it. I was only on a couple of times, because we had 200 people working in this. Correctional officers, and there's at some certain times only you have somebody that's on poo-poo watch and all that, so you got to watch people for a certain period of time, or suicide watch and things like that. But anyway, the guy's cutting it, and his mouth is watering, his eyes and everything, and I was thinking, what the heck, it's terrible, sure, but I don't think I would be going through all those theatrics if I had to. Gosh, but it's a nasty job. But somebody's got to do it. I elect the foreign minister of Finland to do that. But anyway, maybe Zelensky. He likes to cut and stir things. But anyhow, if this guy was on this watch, how could it possibly be? And the lights are normally always on, 24 hours. And I don't know. It's just not possible that he would have committed suicide. I'm just saying that. So that's enough said on that one. So obviously that is ridiculous. He did not commit suicide. He was done in. And I guess anybody that has done that in a prison would say, Trust me, he was done in. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see. That's still about this thing about the AFD. Remember? Oh wait. Just a couple of days ago, Ursula von der Leyen, she was accusing Russia of jamming her GPS signal while she was flying into Plovdiv, Bulgaria. You know, that used to be a big Roman settlement back in ancient times. You know, here we're talking about the Romans. I talked about them a little bit earlier in this video. But, you know, that was a big settlement for the Roman Empire in Bulgaria at that time. But anyway, she was flying in there, and she said that the Russians jammed her GPS signal. And when I was in the military and military intelligence, that was one of our we had 2 squads that were involved in jamming signals, a tactical jamming device called tac jams and things like that. You know, and it's a lot of sophisticated and very expensive material. And then, of course, in a different company, we had people that, you know, like translators that would catch the signals of the East Germans and the Russians, and of course, then they'd, you know, supposedly translate it and all that sort of a thing. But, you know, so that's part of our military intelligence, combat spies, you know, going back in through, you know, some people are airborne. I wasn't airborne, but, you know, you can go into behind the enemy lines, and you supposedly with your binoculars and your camouflage carry lots of water on you and things like that. And you're supposed to get a lowdown on how many tanks and how many soldiers and all that. And you have a little thing, you know, about the size of a little teeny mini laptop, and you tap it in and it goes to a satellite. That was really, 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 really state of the art back in the 80s. So just to let you know. And what time was that? It was like the late 80s, after 88 and 90 and stuff like that. So when I was in that unit. And okay, let's keep going anyway. But it turns out that Ursula von der Leyen is a liar. Why do they call her Ursula von der Leyen? But anyway, she was in an airplane, and she had said that, or they had somebody put out, maybe her office, her people, maybe she made them put it out, that they were in a holding pattern for like 1.5 hours because they couldn't land because Russia was jamming their GPS signal, and that they had to use regular maps to, you know, like fold out paper maps to find their way. So, you know, it makes me wonder, well, they're in a holding pattern above Plovdiv, and the guys don't seem to know where I've been in, like you guys already have seen, I've been in videos, and you know, the pilot I had, you know, he knew his way around, and these guys fly this thing all the time. He didn't need any special stuff to land. He knew where he was going. He could see. I even started to know, you get to know the landmarks and things, and you know where the airfield is, and you know, you can land. I don't know. So this was all a bunch of BS anyhow, and Ursula von der Leyen, it turns out that there's this what is it called, flight tracker or flight radar, and they knew exactly when she left, when she was supposed to land, when she landed, and everything. And they know that they said that basically there was no GPS being blocked. It was working perfectly. So nobody was blocking the GPS, and of course they made Russia say, we didn't do it, and Russia didn't do it, and of course it was nothing but a big lie to demonize the Russians. And they were not in a holding pattern at all. They made, I think, a loop kind of, and that was part of what they were supposed to be doing anyway. A lot of times you see the pilots, you know, because they want to approach the runway from a separate position, so they make a loop around. And Ursula von der Leyen, their flight was 9 minutes late only. It wasn't at 1.5 hours late. It was 9 minutes late. So, and maybe she didn't like the big loop that they took around the area there before they landed, and maybe she made something up in her own head and said, well, something must be wrong. Russia must be jamming our GP. I mean, you know, no, I'll tell you what, these people are friggin' crazy anyway. They're the bunch of friggin' idiots. And it's mostly mostly these women. Annalena Baerbock, you know, Bareback, I guess they called her probably when she worked for the WEF. Bareback. I wonder why they called her Bareback. But anyway, there's Annalena Baerbock, and then there's Ursula von der Leyen, you know. Oh, Zelensky threw his underwear at me. Oh, I want a pair of his undies. I want a pair of his undies. You know, they're all, you know, in love with Zelensky.
'Cause he talks like this, I guess.
Anyway, they were only 9 minutes late, so on that flight. Total lie. Ursula von der Leyen. Okay, yesterday Trump initiated, this is something too. Part of this madness against the multipolar world and BRICS in general. Yesterday he initiated measures to sanction the Bank of Brazil because it was used to buy Russian diesel. So it wasn't necessarily Brazil, but somebody maybe they used the money they paid somebody off to buy Russian diesel. So, and therefore they're going to sanction it. In other words, I'll tell you what, I can promise you that there are American banks that did far, far, far worse, as far as if you want to say that somebody's complicit in helping Russia's war machine. There are American banks that did much, much, much more. But is he going to sanction them? No. And there's probably European. The same thing. They just find somebody that they don't like, they want to demonize, somebody they want to destroy, some entity, a bank or whatever, and then they just look for, there was a transaction here, so, we hate them, they're helping Russia kill innocent Ukrainians, which of course is not the case anyway. Absolutely incredible. So in other words, what he's doing is by sanctioning this bank, he is, like I was saying yesterday, what was this thing he was doing? He had a whole bunch of birds with one stone. This time he's getting 2 birds with one stone. So he's going after Russia. He's going after Brazil. Wow. There's just never an end to that, Let's get these birds. Give me some stones, boy. And he just said, and you have to remember, a lot of times Donald Trump, what is it amazing that he comes out and he kind of, he's so full of himself that he even tells you ahead of time very much, or very often, on what he's going to do. He was saying that he's just getting started with his sanctions and his tariffs. And so he keeps coming up with more of them all the time. And a lot of people were saying he's going to be going somehow after Russia. And I was thinking that he will, and he's going to. But I don't really understand how he's doing it. He hasn't announced anything yet really dastardly again. I mean, except for what he's going after Brazil. So he's kind of doing a secondary sanctions sort of a deal in reverse that's going to affect Russia, such as, I don't know, anybody doing any business with Russia and all that. But I tell you, it's not really working at all. Wow. Like going after India, for example. That's secondary sanctions. Go after India because they're fueling Russia's war machine almost as much as the Europeans are. Just about as much as we are fueling the Russian war machine by buying the uranium from the Russians and other products too, by the way. Pretty silly stuff. Okay. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wow, that was pretty good. This was a couple days ago. She vowed to never be silent. And of course, this is her opinion. She said she vowed to never be silent about the millions, kind of a little bit of an exaggeration, definitely hundreds of thousands. She said she vowed to never be silent about the millions of COVID vaccine deaths, but that saved lives. Donald Trump even told us it did. So she will never be silent, in her words, about the millions of COVID vaccine deaths. Unless she's talking about worldwide. I don't know even. But it's the opposite. Donald Trump, he came out a couple days ago, I think maybe the day before, maybe the same day. And he is saying, he's critical of a lot of these companies that made the vaccines, and he's saying that they need to publish the data on how great these vaccines are. He's actually trying to say how many millions and millions of people that he saved. And he's talking about, again, I don't know, Donald Trump, I tell you, to me, he's very embarrassing, He's talking, about the greatness of his Operation, Warp Speed, So Operation Warp Speed, and how he single-handedly did that. And he even said in this, he said a little thing really very fast. He said, even Putin was amazed at how great, he's basically saying how great I am for making this Operation Warp Speed and creating these vaccines very quickly. Very strange, because Putin, or the Russians, they came out with a vaccine about 6 months before the Americans did. And they didn't have Operation Warp Speed. It just shows you how bad the American system is. But of course, the Russians, in some ways, they're more advanced in are more advanced in pharmaceuticals than the Americans are, such as the the method used for this messenger RNA sort of a deal. And I think the Russians, that's even also messenger RNA. It's a much different way, and it's apparently much more effective, and it is not a cause of death the way the Russians do it. An American's way is actually not working very good. And I think that it's the same as with AstraZeneca. That's also associated with Bill Gates. I think it's a British company, and I believe that was done first through in Wiesbaden, if I'm not starting to forget my facts and things like that there. But like I said, it was a different method, and they didn't know exactly how the Russians did it. But they copied it, and it's unfortunately that the method might be the thing that's actually causing the problems, the method that they use. And I don't know, the Russians apparently didn't keep statistics so much of how many people were injured from the vaccines. If any, I don't know. I kind of think there are, but I don't know. I don't know how many. They didn't keep statistics, unfortunately. It's not a good thing. They could have done better. Maybe they would learn something as well. Okay. Chinese marching. If you guys were watching it, it was today even, and I think it's just, the march is over. The Chinese, if you thought the Russians were very good, I mean, there was a lot of us online, at least I was on some other chat groups and things like that, we're talking about how terrible, absolutely terrible the Americans march compared to the Russians and the Belarusians. I'm always wondering, well, which is better, the Belarusians or the Russians? They both really are really great in marching, but they don't even come close to the Chinese. And the Chinese, it's sort of like to the inch how you raise your arm when you're marching, how exactly the angle of your leg when you're marching, everything is meticulous. And it doesn't mean that they can fight great, but it does show that they are very disciplined people, and apparently they put pins in their uniforms to make them so their posture stays straight. I mean, at least in training, so that they have a straight posture, and it's absolutely incredible. If you have some footage, look at the American footage of the American Victory Day parade and compare it to the Chinese, and you'll start to cry if you're an American. So unfortunately, that's how that works. So, okay. Also, that tweet I was telling you about, that one that's a very sad tweet of Donald Trump, and it is a very sad tweet because it shows that Donald Trump has kind of lost it in a way. But also, in that tweet, he says, it kind of reminds me of some movie where somebody goes insane and they're conspiring. They're after me. They're out to get me. Somebody who's paranoid. He says that China and Russia and India are conspiring against the United States. That's what they're doing over there, with the Victory Parade and all that sort of a thing. Conspiring against the United States. Wow, how evil they are. Yeah, so I guess maybe what are they? They're conspiring. What they're going to do? They're going to put tariffs on the somebody else is doing tariffs. Who's that? They're going to put not sanctions. Somebody else is sanctioning like the Bank of Brazil. Tariffs on India. No. Wait. So was India going to put tariffs on America? No. That's not the other way. Whatever. The banks are going to put financial. No, that's not it. They're going to drop bombs. Oh no, they're going to give some weapons to the enemies. No, that's the United States giving weapons to Ukraine. Well, anyway, somehow they're going to conspire against the United States because the United States wouldn't do that to anybody else. As you see, they wouldn't do any of those nasty things that I was just mentioning. Anyway, so yeah, like I wrote to somebody, I sent that tweet, and I was just saying, who's conspiring here? Who's doing all the conspiring? Who's in NATO? Russia doesn't have a Warsaw Pact anymore, to conspire or whatever. But the United States is in NATO, and the NATO countries, they meet and they have these little meetings and all that. And Putin went to Alaska to meet with Trump, one-on-one. But yet Zelensky took the 7 dwarves with him, and they all went to Washington to speak badly and to talk about how evil Putin is and all that, and to try to get some conspiration. And of course, like I said, the meeting tomorrow is the United States meeting with the coalition of the Hate Russia Club willing. And so who's conspiring here? Is it, I mean, I don't know, it's very, absolutely incredible stuff. Anyhow, that's about all I have to put out today. There's a lot more news all the time, you know, and I don't put that stuff out, you know, because I can't go through all this stuff so fast and all that. And this is just about an hour long again anyway. Most of these videos now I'm making are an hour and they take too much time. I don't know. I was asking you guys to make some comments. Nobody did last time except for me. I put a crazy one. Hope people didn't think I was serious about it. So, but anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one, whenever that's going to be. Bye-bye.